Hello, people. Gonna finally do something other than just being silly this time. Going to discuss some more serious subjects.
Hello, people.
Ooh, right about that. Let's hope CCDN gets in chat. I'm not gonna have guests for the first part of this, so. Well, this is gonna be cool. I'm finally going to. I guess I'll just leave it as is right now. We're gonna be looking at some incidents. We're gonna be looking at a military base today. We're looking at a Fort Hood in Killeen, Texas. And why is the name called Killeen or Killeen? I have no idea, but let me share screen and we'll look at the article. Share whole entire screen. Okay, let's get going. Let's start looking at this. Okay, I don't know if the sound's going to play, but we'll find out. This is Katie Grove's full testimony.
Hello, my name is Katie Groves, and I am a survivor of the child snuff industry. This video is about my experience growing up in a child snuff ring.
It's almost
known
10
as
minutes.
Uncle Sam's Snuff Factory. This ring was located in Central Texas, and I will speak about it in the past tense only because I do not have current knowledge of its existence. But that does not mean I have any reason to believe that it has been shut down. Based on my hazy recollections, hazy because of the torture, the dissociation, the drugging, etc., them killed programming, I cannot give you an exact location, but I know that it was somewhere in Central Texas. My home was in Austin, and I recall the drives being about 45 minutes to get to this place. I recall it being in farmland, the entrance at least, but most of the ring being underground. Many people have a hard time believing that child snuff exists, that even snuff exists, then let alone that high-ranking government officials and military agencies orchestrate it. To believe that there are deep underground military bases that commit mass genocide against children, film it, and sell it on the black market for quote-unquote gore whores, snuff fiends, slop sluts, snuff kings. To watch it is unfathomable to most people. Unfortunately, that is reality, and that is a reality I know too well. I spent the first 17 years of my life being taken to that place on a near daily basis, sometimes held for longer periods of time, in which I was incarcerated, did not know if I would ever see daylight again. I've witnessed thousands of murders, largely of children of color, who were systematically targeted for their race by the white supremacist government, which runs the United States. They called it Uncle Sam's Snuff Factory as a private joke, as if it was a mom and pop shop. A local business. Uncle Sam was supposed to be a friendly figure, a figure in American propaganda, supposed to look at like a father, like a friend. The Snuff Factory, also known as the Genocide Factory, is the very literal definition of hell on earth. It is not unique. There are other places like it all over the world. I have been trafficked there as well. But what I can say is there is no place like Uncle Sam's. It is one of those places where a person can get literally anything they want for the right price if they have the connections to be there. I have seen wealthy, aristocratic white women ordering children of color on menus to be delivered dead, cooked on platters in a wing of the place they call it Cannibal's Kitchen.
Am I even able to have this on YouTube? This is just dark. I've heard of this stuff like about when it first started in like 2015. This document starts in 2016 when they started opening up this case. They started opening the case file for this. So I'm gonna pause the video there and look through some of the information that I found. This is Army soldiers at Fort Hood in Texas are dying at alarming rates stateside. This is not like people going to war and dying. They're dying in the base and the surrounding area. It's from January 16th to the present. This was posted in September 1st, 2020. So maybe not the present. So that means this is doubled now. It's 4 years, or in the last 5 years, as this says. In the last 5 years, from January 2016 to present, Fort Hood, on average, lost 33 soldiers a year. This is Fort Hood, a base in Texas. People are dying at 33 soldiers, average 33 a year. And this document will actually list each and every death too, within the study period. If you divide 33 by 12 months, that's an average of 3 soldiers a month. We must find out why, so we can prevent these untimely deaths and save the precious lives and futures of these mostly young soldiers. The average age at time of death is 28 years old, and each death has a ripple effect on the families and friends and communities left behind. Help us hold leadership accountable by joining us at Military Justice for All. Well, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and at Military Crime. I guess their tag is at military_crime. Well, Donald Trump, when you get in office, you need to investigate this stuff. That's why I posted this also posted this on a Gab group with 240,000 members supporting Trump for 2024. This needs to be investigated. This is not the only base that's having problems like this. It's probably happening elsewhere overseas. His leadership is solving problems. The day soldiers stop bringing their problems is the day you stop leading them. This is they have either lost confidence that you can help or conclude that they do not care. Either case is a failure of leadership. General Colin Powell. Okay, well, here's the breakdown of what we've got here. It says Stars and Stripes official count 167 total deaths, 157 at Fort Hood since January 2016 to September of 2020. They have 12 overseas deaths, even though there's only 10 difference between the Fort Hood only and the total. But they have some in Afghanistan. We got insider attacks, combat deaths. Let's go to the 445 state side. The ones that are kind of like unusual. We have 1 homicide on post, Vanessa Gulen. We got 15 homicides off post. 5 are still unsolved as of 2020. 24 deaths ruled suicide. That's kind of suspicious. 33 found dead on post. 16 found dead off post. 18 died in training accidents. Possibly understandable. The motorcycle. Okay, we got 10 that died in medical issues. These are averaging 28 years old. Why are they dying from medical issues? Swimming and boating accidents. It's Texas. Maybe slightly understandable. It is supposed to be one of the biggest bases in the country. It says we have been working in real time to collect the information about the soldiers who have lost stateside and overseas. We started these effects a few years ago. Fort Hood has come up with enough online research and warranted investigations into recurring problem with untimely deaths in the form of training accidents, vehicle accidents, motorcycle accidents, suicide, violent crime, non-combat death, insider attacks, and unknown causes of death. We're not even talking about the children either. This is just the soldiers. We don't even know how many children. That girl said there was like you can just go there and order them like a pizza, literally. So it's like, and then the soldiers are also being victimized for some unknown reason. We'll probably never know why. It says we noticed a large spike in soldier death in November 2016 when we learned that 4 soldiers died stateside at Fort Hood and 2 died in a suicide bombing on a protected base in Afghanistan at the start of a Veterans Day fun run. Alan Brown eventually succumbed to his injuries from the blast on December 16. And because we track military crime, the suspicious death cases both stateside and overseas, we observe far more untimely death when looking at the big picture. So I guess we'll go back to the girl again for a little bit, or finish the other half. Let's see if there's any connection. See if she mentions anything in the second half.
And the reason I'm alive and the reason I survived is because I was born into an organized crime family involved with the CIA who ran this operation. And I have the genetics, family background to be a candidate for perpetration, for continuing the cycle of violence, from being one of the quote-unquote leaders or members of the group involved. So I was kept alive for experimentation, for slavery, for use. I have fought my way out, and if you want to learn about that, you can watch any of the videos on my channel. It'll be informative. But I still suffer every day deeply with the post-traumatic stress. I have polyfragmented dissociative identity disorder as a result. It actually goes beyond polyfragmentation. I have something called exponential fragmentation, which I have spoken of in some videos I'll put in the description below, so that you can understand the level of trauma that this type of abuse can create.
Okay, if CCDN's in there, that's the trauma-based mind control you've been reading about from the TI's from the gang stalking website. She's also a TI. Just by that alone, she's also been targeted, and it's because we're genetics. So she may still have a YouTube channel. You should look her up. You should look her up, CCDN. Her name's Katie Groves. So I hope her YouTube channel's still up. So we'll try to find that later. And she may shed more light into the TI phenomenon, because apparently she's been on military bases, and we haven't heard a lot of military bases on the gang stalking Reddit yet. We've only heard some hints of it, but this person was on the base and describing what happened. So we got to look more into this.
I weep for my brothers and sisters in this place. Ones who are undoubtedly still alive and suffering there. I weep for the dead, but death is a merciful option in a place like that. No, that does not mean that I am not grateful for my survival, but grateful is a hard word to use in the circumstance. How does one feel gratitude when they have witnessed such carnage? Because we're not just talking about death, we're talking about the worst possible ways to die. Children being boiled alive in shit and piss that predators paid to donate into iron tubes. We're talking about children cut apart, fed to other children for people's sexual gratification. And most don't want to look at it, and I do not blame you. I do not blame the survivors of this abuse who stay dissociated, who remain used and enslaved because they cannot look either.
The stuff she's talking about is also takes place in the the Hollywood pedophile rings. They also do similar stuff as well. The same thing with the DC the criminal elite. They do the same thing in the White House. I've heard stories about it from other whistleblowers and from the prostitutes they bring in. So this is not just one base. This is all over the country, and pretty much all over the world. You can count Europe in on it as well. So it's not just a small thing. It's a pretty big network. And I think I'm going to take the time to actually start like describing. I start posting more about it because it's pretty interesting stories. It's a lot of stuff that goes on in there. So I'm going to look for more about the facts about this.
Because they cannot come to terms with their experiences, and I'm not blaming the general public who will not look. But this is reality. And all I ask of those who watch this is that you remember that while it may be excruciatingly painful for you to look at this reality, to think about this being possible, there are children. I ask you to remember and acknowledge that there are children who are surviving it every day. There are children enduring this, dying in this, and surviving this who have to carry that pain all alone. And if they can do that, maybe you can muster the strength, if you have it, to look, to think about it just enough to get involved in some way to stop the madness. And no, I do not expect you to find this place, to find these underground trafficking rings, bust down the doors, and rescue these kids. I doubt if that will ever happen before World War III comes or some epidemic and wipes us all out, while the people who perpetrate this remain alive in their underground worlds, and so on and so forth. Don't even want to go into the whole NWO thing right now. No, I don't expect that from you. I don't expect you to stop this in that way. But there are people fighting human trafficking. There are people who need voices. And at the very least, I encourage you to extend your support in some way to those who have survived, even if you cannot help those who are lost. I don't know how to help those who are lost. But there are people like me who have doctors. We need lawyers. We need support. We need friends. We need new family, because most of us have lost ours. You can help collective damage created by these rings. And hopefully one day that collective spirit will be strong enough to take this stuff out at its source, to go down into the trenches in child trafficking who never make it out. Thank you.
Okay, we go through that. Let's go look more at the other stuff that's on here. Go to her YouTube. I believe it may, but it load. There's the story. And now there's the Vanity Fair article. We're going to read that in a minute. I just want to see what's past this. Oh, now it's a different one. This is Vice.com. This is U.S. Marines. Yeah, I don't know. There's no articles on these though. These don't have an article. I'll do that another day. What's the Vanity Fair article? This might be a more interesting read. This Fort Hood is one of 800 U.S. military bases around the world, the third largest in the country. American military bases, once established, seldom shutter, and Fort Hood, which started operating during World War II, has remained open for business. It's 218,000 acres spreading across 2 counties in central Texas, near an otherwise unremarkable town called Killeen. And why does the town got the word kill in its name? I bet they chose that for a reason. I bet they did. The Illuminati just love doing things like that. It's from here wars are launched. Military bases are the last piece of the homeland that U.S. soldiers see before they deployed, where they are deployed to fight, and the first glimpse of home when they return. So there's a memorial for Vanessa on here. It says a memorial that now stands at the site of Vanessa Guillen's remains are found in Killeen, Texas. And they spelled it here as Killen, but Google has it as Killeen. Okay, it is driving into Killeen last fall. What greeted me was a deer roadkill that had oh my god, severed in half. Yikes. This is next I passed Club Dreams, where Specialist Shelby Jones was shot, bled out, and died last March. Then Guns Galore, where Army psychiatrist Major Niddle Hasten purchased a semi-automatic pistol that he would use to kill 13 people in 2009. Like I said, it's been going on for a long time. A soft October wind carried the first chill of the season. During the day, still hot enough that you drop a beer bottle. If you dropped a beer bottle, the contents appeared to dry on contact. It says the vast emptiness that is most state can make you feel more that you ever lived. Not a good thought. Traveling in the time of plague, trying to build rapport, and people from 6 feet away was okay. Was innervating. So much of reporting as is opening yourself up to chance, and there I was compulsively locking the rental door on most nights. I had nightmares. Dan, if you see trolls in here, just kick them. Okay, I don't really see anything right now. Yeah, everything's good. Just keep an eye on it for me. I can't see both screens on this right now. But I'm gonna continue reading the article. Well, thanks for being there, Minnie. Stress disorder wanted me to be careful of cartels, which she said ran the area. Specialist Vanessa Goyland's father, Rogelio, wondered if I shouldn't carry a gun. That's definitely a sign of demonic activity. Where those of us who deal with the paranormal. That means remember that what the girl was talking about about the children being raped and cooked up and served to high ranking officials. That's satanic black magic. And that lady's rosary shattering when she goes on the base. That's a sign demonic stuff is taking place there. So this is also a supernatural event. At first blush, such violence at a base that calls itself the Great Place may seem extraordinary inexplicable even, but then certain details start illuminating the mystery that 1 out of 3 women soldiers have experienced sexual harassment. According to a recent survey, that gun safety is a distant concern in a community where the Second Amendment tops the Maslow charts. I have to look that up another time. I don't really care about the Maslow chart. I'll figure that out later. That psychological trauma among veterans vastly exceeds physical wounds. I could believe that. That most soldiers enlist when they are still teenagers, their yet unformed minds taught to kill, that American imperialism is imploding, and the blast force radiates inward. Part 2 of The Cruel Summer. Okay, now we're in April of 2020, before the other document came out. It says on Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020. I think it's Julian or something. Julian? I'm going to say Gulen. I don't know how it's pronounced. Reported for duty at Fort Hood. The 20-year-old small arms specialist, then a private first class, was supposed to be off that day, so she showed up in civilian clothes, black tee, purple leggings, and fanny pack. That morning, Gulen had left her third floor barracks and headed downstairs to her workstation at the motor pool, the vast garage for military vehicles. She filled out the paperwork that is the lifeblood of the Army before heading toward the arms room a few paces away. It's just before noon. Gulen left her keys, Army ID, and bank cards in the arms room and entered another adjacent arms room, separated by a hallway. There she encountered Specialist Aaron Robinson, also 20 years old, but a rank above. Robinson gave Gulen the serial number for a .50 caliber machine gun that needed servicing. Bet she looked badass with that thing too. .50 cal machine gun. Later, Robinson would tell investigators that Gulen completed her task and exited the building. Robinson himself left soon after. He would testify to spend the night off post with his girlfriend. That's actually not too bad for this Vanity Fair, but this is the only article that's on here. Nearly 200 miles away in Houston, it says Rogelio Gulen was entering his 4th hour of work at a nickel plating factory when he felt a sharp spasm in his chest. The wave of pain went away as suddenly as it had come on, but returned again and again and again. Over the next hour, he wondered if it was something he had eaten or carried on with his shift. He got home around 2 p.m. and told his wife, Gloria, about the unusual aches. Their minds both turned to Vanessa, whose hourly texts to family members had gone silent. He had also missed her standing noon call for her fiancé, Juan Cruz. Let me check the... Oh, I got some fans of Minnie in here. Cool. Oh, hi, Minnie's fans. Okay, this might be pretty long, but yeah, you kind of get the idea this base has got something wrong with it. But after 8 p.m., Gulen's sister, Myra, I guess it's Myra, called the base. Gulen's superior confirmed she was missing at 9:30 p.m. Myra, Cruz, Gulen's other sister, Giovanna, and Giovanna's boyfriend set out to Fort Hood. Myra wept during the journey, already fearing the worst. It rained that night, and the drive, which should have taken 3 hours, was slow going. The search party arrived at Fort Hood at 3 a.m. Gulen's staff sergeant told the group to come back in the morning. They checked into a nearby hotel and returned at 8 a.m. the next day, so only 5 hours sleep, if even that. The group of soldiers, including Robinson, greeted them. The soldiers said that Gulen's belongings had been found in the arms room, but otherwise she had left no trace. The family began posting online about Gulen's disappearance, and distributing missing flyers. Okay, back in Houston, Gloria recalled a conversation with her daughter not long before. When Gullion had been home for the weekend, Gloria had noticed her losing weight and pressed her for why. Gullion confessed she was being harassed by another soldier. Give me the name and I'll report that bastard. Gloria told her daughter, who refused to tell her mother more for fear of worrying her. And also, Gloria later suspected her fear of reprisal. Well, on a base possessed by demons, I think reprisal is probably the least of your worries. But it sounds like something really crazy. But as this memory now refreshed, Gloria began asking around for a name and soon learned it through Gullion's friend Aaron Robinson, the last person to have seen her daughter. I'm guessing these are them. Okay, it says Chris and Moses, friends of Gregory. It says Weddle Morales. Okay, it's Chris and Moses, friends of Gregory Weddle Morales, who hasn't even showed up in the article yet, at the site of the remains. There might be some search. There might be some of the searchers or something, because they haven't been mentioned yet. On May 19th, military investigators went through Robinson's phone and learned that he had called his girlfriend, Cecily Aguilar, I guess, good enough, multiple times that night of April 22nd, as late as 3:30 a.m. from a town 20 miles east of Fort Hood. Despite his claim he had been with Aguilar that night, two witnesses had seen Robinson roll a black cargo box out of the arms room through the parking lot, where he loaded it into a car and drove away, contradicting an earlier affidavit from three soldiers who falsely claimed they had seen Gullion departing the arms room earlier. Ooh, you're not supposed to lie on affidavits. That's kind of bad. Anything here? Nope. It's all caught up. Okay, the day after Gullion disappeared, Private Gavin. Oh, not the name Gavin. No. Well, Private Gavin Chambers. At least it's not the other dude. 21. Oh, died on base. On April 29th, it was Private Joshua Burnwell, 19, Sergeant Brad Reynolds, 37, killed himself on May 16th. On May 18th, Brandon Rosecrane's burning Jeep was discovered in a hilly suburb east of Fort Hood. Rosecrane's shot four times, was found 3 miles from the vehicle. The coming months brought the suicides of Staff Sergeant Richard Harrington, 45, and a specialist James Green, 23. And on June 19th, skeleton remains were found in a field behind a cul-de-sac of a residential neighborhood in Killeen. Okay, this sounds like a house of 1,000 corpses. This is insane. This is a part. I guess it's a part of Texas I'll never visit. Those remains turned out belonged to yet another soldier, Private Gregory Weddle Morales, who was pictured above. I guess now those people are going to appear, who had gone missing the previous summer. That September, Weddle Morales, who was from rural Oklahoma, was due to be honorably discharged from the military. The plan Weddle Morales told anyone who would listen was to use the GI Bill to attend technical school in Houston to work on wind turbines or oil rigs off the coast of Louisiana. On the night of August 19th, Weddle Morales went out to Club Fuego, located in a desolate strip mall about 10 miles east of Fort Hood. The next day, Weddle Morales failed to show up for duty, and the day after that, he was classified as absent without leave, making him one of the 1,000 or so soldiers who go AWOL in any given year. I had no idea that many go AWOL every year, but yikes. I just hope that doesn't turn into anything bad, but 1,000 AWOL soldiers every year. Who knew? Now we all know. Since being stationed at Fort Hood in November 2016, Weddle Morales has frequented the Dollhouse, a strip club Not far from where his remains would eventually be found, at the dollhouse, he got to know Penny Morales, a dancer and mother of two. They married in May 2017 and took her name with hyphenation. Penny says they met online. Well, Morales was thrilled to become a father. The new family, like more than 70% of all of Fort Hood's service members, live off post, but after two dead bodies were found on their street, they moved into base housing. And who do we got here? Victoria, a friend of Gregory Waddell Morales, decided that his remains in Killeen, Texas. So this is we're gonna go through the whole thing. Why not? Let me see if there's anyone on. No, it's just me. I'll keep going. Okay, by then, Weddle Morales had grown distant from his family in Oklahoma, who had not been told of the marriage. Whoa, he didn't even tell his family of his own marriage. They're not too happy of a family there. His mother, Kim, only heard from her son when she needed money. By then, the Army, it seemed, had stopped providing Weddle Morales with a sense of purpose. He had turned to alternate sources of meaning, namely car and motorcycle clubs and life beyond the base. Most of the groups were above board, even as they were ruled by certain strictures as meeting attendance, dress code, and how appropriately signal respect. Failure to comply could incur fines of hundreds of dollars or other more severe social censor. A small minority, which bikers call 1% groups, which the Department of Justice calls by the regrettable acronym OMG, or Outlaw Motorcycle Gangs. Hey, now you guys learned to deal with another version of OMG. OMG! Outlaw Motorcycle Gangs, where the people Weddle Morales had been hanging around with. When Kim called Fort Hood inquiring about her son, she was told the case was to remit of the Killeen Police Department, as Weddle Morales had gone missing off base. But when Kim called the police, they dismissed her, telling Kim that her son probably just took off. Killeen police stated that they have no knowledge or anything declining to investigate. So when the following spring, Fort Hood offered $15,000 reward for information about Killeen, then raised it to $25,000 in June. Kim called to demand the same. Fort Hood hurriedly put up a $25,000 reward for Weddle Morales as well. 4 days later, an anonymous tip directed investigators to an urban prairie at the end of a residential street where Penny Morales used to live. There, Weddle Morales' remains have been found, long ago decomposed in the Texas heat. The person who called in with the tip declined to collect the reward. And that was sporting of him. It says Weddle Morales' death was not the first from the base that may have involved bike gangs. Now, 2 days after, Staff Sergeant Anthony Lovell, 40, disappeared in 2017. His body was found, eyes pecked clean, face split in half, in a creek off Killeen's seedy main corridor called Rancier. The same street where Specialist Freddie Delacruz, 23, was shot and killed last March. The Lovell case was ruled an accident, despite the fact that a rival club biker's vest, or coot, I think it's called coot, was found hanging neatly from a tree near the crash site, while his motorcycle mirror tail lights were found intact. According to the Killeen police, no such vests were found at the scene of the crash. So I guess that's the Club Fuego. I guess it's a casino or something next to a jackpot and a health food. There's a health food store next to a club. Go figure. Let me check everything. Pretty screwed up. Oh, this is what I plan to do, Minnie. This is what my channel is going to be about. Oh, yeah, I guess maybe it's a chain. Maybe, Minnie, it could be a chain. I guess we can look into that after we get done with the article and start opening up, inviting people on after this is done. Because right now I'm not going to invite anybody on until I get finished with the article. So we're just going to find out. It says on July 3rd, a fortnight after Weddle Morales' body was found, specialist Miguel Yazzie, 33, died at Fort Hood after his repeated requests to see a doctor were denied, according to Karma. What? Karma. Someone's name is Karma. Like as in what goes around comes around kind of karma, just spelled with a C instead. Okay, so Karma Johnson, whose brother died at Fort Hood. Yikes, all these deaths. On August 13th, Staff Sergeant Bradley Moore died during the land navigation exercise on the base. His wife, Crystal, was denied her husband's mobile phone, the final investigation report, and even his corpse until Texas Congressman Ron Wright stepped in on that front. Fort Hood does not count more in its official casualty list. Well, they should, because it's involved, as he was a member of the National Guard. Well, didn't he die on base? Hey, August 17th, Sergeant Elder Fernandez, 23, disappeared. Fernandez had just been stationed at Fort Hood in January. He had been happy enough there in February. He re-enlisted for an additional 4 years. On May 11th, however, Fernandez reported to Fort Hood abusive sexual contact from a staff sergeant whom alleged groped him in a supply room. According to the redacted military investigation report, Fernandez transferred to another unit where he was called a snitch and worse. This place is so evil. Even the men are getting sexually assaulted by, I guess, I don't know if it's higher ranking people. This is just a sergeant, so I guess a staff sergeant would be higher than just a regular one, I think. I don't know military ranks, though. So on August 11th, the high rep called Fernando's mother, Elena, to tell her that her son had not shown up for work for 2 days. Frantic, she called around to no avail. Eventually, Fernandez rang from an army hospital. Fernandez wouldn't share much, nothing about what had caused him to be hospitalized, and said that he was using an insecure base hospital line. A few days later, they spoke again for the last time. As soon as I got out of the hospital, I will call you. I will tell you everything. Fernandez was dropped off at a friend's house the next day, August 17th, never to be seen again. It just gets more insane. I think on the next person, when it gets to the next incident after this, I think I'm going to stop the news article and I'm going to look into that Maslow study and see what that's about. I read earlier. When Elena contacted the military police at Fort Hood, they told her that Fernandez was an adult and that if he was missing, he likely didn't want to be found. If he wanted to pursue things further, they advised she would have to file a missing person report with the local police. The police told Elena that Fernandez was an adult and that they would not report him missing. The police opened an investigation August 19th when Elena offered Fort Hood authorities the contents of her son's car, including the laptop, iPad, and external hard drive. They declined to investigate further. Yeah, see, that's a cover-up right there. That's what a cover-up is. They just like brush it off when it's rolling. This stuff needs to be investigated. So I'm hoping I'm hoping the people in the forum I put this to eventually see this video and make light of this as somebody who can investigate this further. I'm astounded nobody is interested. The Fernandez family lawyer Lenny Keston told me it is possible Elder was murdered. It is possible Elder killed himself. It's possible. I don't Don't they care as to what happened to Elder Fernandez? If he killed himself, don't they want to know why? And that's the Dollhouse strip club. It is so desolate. There's like nothing around it. There's like a street. You can see the strip mall across the street from it. The club is like a parking lot with a building like right in the middle of it. It's like there's like dark areas around it and stuff. Okay, it's on the next person. I'm gonna stop reading this article. I'm just gonna stop reading. This is just really messed up. There's no justice. That other article's right. There's no justice. This article's right. There literally is no justice for this stuff. It says military justice for all. Like, where is the justice? There's nothing. Well, here's an update from 2019, from January 26, 2019, from the people trying to get this investigated. So you got to hear some of the cases, just how awful this is, how they just don't do anything. It says there are no words right now for how incredibly sad it is for us to post this today, because we not only care about these soldiers and veterans who have passed at Fort Hood, but we care deeply for the families, friends, and troops left behind. It says we share this with you so you will understand the magnitude of the issues we have with ultimate untimely stateside deaths in an effort to honor those who have passed and learn from it so we can find ways to prevent it from happening to others. And this is 5 years ago. I wonder if there's any. I'm going to go to the bomb and see if there's any more updates. Because we are especially disappointed with Fort Hood leadership, who made the decision to stop providing the public with press releases notifying us of the death of a soldier in March 2018. A friend and military spouse who's been working on this project gently reminded all of us it actually does a disservice to the families who need the community support and love at one of the most difficult time in their lives. Ultimately, it should be up to the families to make that decision, and it comes at a time when we are laser focused on three corpses at Fort Hood because we care. 3 corpses at Fort Hood. What's this linked to? These are Facebook. Let's see where it goes. It's slow. It's really super slow. These are all links. Navy sailor Brandon Caserta died by suicide at Naval Station, Norfolk, Virginia in 2018. That's not too far from Chris. Well, it actually is. It's still like hundreds of miles. So there's a history. This doesn't go back to 2009. It goes to 2015 and starts counting up. So it's like, I guess this thing didn't start until 2015. The Army launched an investigation inside Fort Hood's Warrior Transition Unit. I don't know if I should open more of these. Yeah, Fort Hood is still here, but their page is completely sanitized. There's nothing on it, so that's... What the hell? This person made a new type of profile that doesn't have to use the name they go by in everyday life. These profiles have visible usernames. And that's all it is. That's all there is on here. There's nothing else. And I think this is the girl, Dylan Groves. There's the video we just watched earlier. Let's see what her channel... Let's see what her most recent... 3 years ago. 3 years ago was the most recent video. Okay. Integration, traveling, sharing from a smaller space. A lot of these are pretty long. Some thoughts on homelessness and giving part 2. I guess there's a part 1 for that one. That'll be about 50 minutes to get through. It's multi-part. A day in my life, autistic, dissociative, homeless life. This person's now homeless. Or 3 years ago. We'll go to that video later. I think we're going to do the one about the homeless, autistic life. So this person That actually makes another connection to Christian being autistic and having a CIA person's daughter messing with him. And Chris is autistic. This girl that we watched the video for is also autistic. There's something going on. There's something suspicious there. Why are they messing with autistic people like that? Oh, now we're getting these are the names. Christine Armstrong, Brandon Banner. Whoa, it says died in floodwater training incident on post. And all of them. All in the same, all the 6-2s. I think it's like June 2nd. They're all the same death, all the same kind of death. They died in a water accident. Floodwater training accident. These are all the deaths, like what they died of. Suicide bomber based in Afghanistan. Dakota Stump found dead post 3 weeks after went missing. Code single vehicle accident. Suspicious death. Family wants missing warrior alert now. Alert law, not now, but they should want that now anyways. Per month. Yeah, this is just really... Okay, we're going to go past the people. They stopped in August 2020. The people are here, so there's going to be noise in my background. Okay. I go to the bathroom right now. Okay. Well, the door's unlocked, so okay. I'll just leave it unlocked. I will keep the door open. Well, it's going to be construction in my background, so I hope it's not too loud. I'm not sure if I can cover them up because we got September 2020. Well, I guess we'll cover this one next time. We got the truth behind Fort Hood's history of violent crime, suicide, and non-combat death at Fort Hood, Texas. The page isn't found. The Task and Purpose newspaper took it down. I think I have a way to find it. I think I have another way to find it. Okay, we're probably not going to be able to watch the video, so... Okay, I can find. I don't need that anymore. I'm just going to find the one document. Okay, let's see if I can get it. I believe I found a re-upload of it. Let's see how long this is. This is actually very long. There's 400,000 soldiers on that base. Fort Hood is now the largest active duty armed post comprised of nearly 400,000 soldiers, civilian employees, families, and retirees of the Killeen Temple Fort Hood metro area. So the base saw 26 violent crimes each year in 2012 and 2013. It's pretty long. It's actually a pretty long article. So okay, I think that ends it, dude. I guess we'll watch them. Let me stop sharing. Let's go back to, we'll just watch them. Just watch them build. Hope it doesn't take too long. They're just making a big old mess in there. There's a way to lower the contrast on this. I can edit the layout, but I don't know if I can change the contrast to lower it so you guys can see. But I can make my other room brighter. That might help. Just increase the light. Now it's a little better. Now it's brighter in here. I guess the one behind me, I can take that out. That's the best I can get it. It's probably the best I can get it. You guys be able to see in the building. Oh, I guess I'll try. Now it seems less loud. I guess I'll try to watch the video. I'll just have it playing. I'm just hang out with you guys and let it play in the background if it works.
And I'm really overheated and dehydrated right now, but this is the opportunity that I'm being given to make video at this moment, so I'm taking it. So I'm recording this from a park and trying to figure out how to use words because my brain feels like it's melting.
Sheila's hella disheveled
now.
now.
Is going to be to talk about what a day in our life looks like. Every day is kind of, I was thinking that it would be a good opportunity to just try and remember as much as I can from the start until now. And it's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And just so that you guys can get a feel for what life's like for us right now. So
for us, what the hell?
This morning, we were woken up by our husband around 5, probably a bit before it got light, and he woke up to go get his morning coffee, I believe, and we were lying at our camp, which is near downtown in the town we're in, but kind of hidden out of the way. We found a really interesting spot. For safety reasons, I'm not going to say too much about it, but we've been sleeping in this really nice spot for the past few days that hopefully will last us a while, because I feel like there's some really good healing energy there, and it's pretty clean and pretty hidden, but still in a kind of a central location, which is what we're looking for right now. So he woke me up to go get his coffee, and I sort of drifted off back to sleep for a bit. But then I was woken up again by an older gentleman who I guess had been sleeping nearby, but we didn't know he was there. And I remember feeling a lot of anxiety because even though he seemed like he wasn't a dangerous person, I still felt anxious because I was afraid that he may have heard some of the intimate conversation I'd been having with my husband before he left. It wasn't particularly personal or embarrassing, but it was private. And, you know, one of the hardest parts of being homeless is the lack of privacy and not always knowing when there's someone around the corner who may be listening to what you're saying. But he was very respectful, and I was respectful to him. And for a moment, he stopped because he wasn't sure whether to step over my blankets, which were blocking the way. And I told him to go ahead and walk on them. It was all right. And so he did. And then someone rode by on their bike, I guess, from what my husband had said, as he was walking back and saw it at the time. He was
the person was playing this Irish metal music that was really cool. And I thought to myself, oh, he's lucky that I like that kind of music, because I started to get really agitated really fast, having just been woken up twice. And then before I could go back to sleep, all this music was blasting. But it passed quickly, and my husband returned, Thomas, and we had a really lovely, rare opportunity to make love, which I don't want to be too personal here, but I'm trying to just be real about what my day was like today. And so we had a very rare opportunity to do that. It could be very difficult being on the street, trying to find safe places and just find the energy, because it's just so draining every day. But that was lovely and refreshing. And while I am not begrudging it whatsoever, it did open up some space for me to process some traumas, which I got flooded with when I went back to sleep afterwards for a bit. And then I was woken up pretty quickly out of an absolutely horrific nightmare flashback experience in which I relived horrific abuse from my mother in MK Ultra. In the nightmare flashback, she was sexually torturing me, and there was another man there. May have been my father, I'm not sure. He was very blurry, and I was seeing everything in fragments, and it was like there were all these triangles of blurred shadow and splintered glass kind of images as I was going in and out of consciousness. And in the memory, parts were trying to reconnect and stay as grounded as possible for the abuse so that we could undo our programming. But after a bit, a part got too overwhelmed and drifted off into a fantasy world. And then that's the last thing I remember before my husband woke me up. And then I talked to him about it for a little bit, processed it. He does his very best to hold space for us, and has specifically made a point of making sure that there's space for us to share about nightmares when we wake up. And then I found myself so exhausted and so depleted from it that I basically couldn't move. And we finally determined that if I just went across the street and didn't try to help pack up, that I thought I could manage to make it there, but that the thought of having to pack all our stuff up was just too tiring. So I went and did that after smoking some weed and eating a little bit of food. And I sat under a tree and grounded myself. And then a few minutes later, husband came out with our stuff. And I think that at some point in there, I had to go to the bathroom, and the only place to go nearby was these small trees / bushes near where we sleep. And it's not the most comfortable place, but it is hidden enough. And so I was able to do that. And then after sitting for a minute with Thomas, he went to go to a medical appointment, and I went to go to the park to wait for him. As we only have one phone right now between the two of us, we have to agree where we're going to meet and then stick to it if we separate. So I agreed to go to the park because that had a bathroom that was going to open up in about an hour from then. And I knew better than to try and park myself anywhere where there wasn't one. So I started walking, but then I got stopped because I saw this tree where some people have been doing this art project. And there was an invitation on it, kind of an open invitation to the community to participate. So I stopped and I sat for a minute. And, oh, no, I think I'd forgotten that was after something else happened. Before that happened, I went to a store to go and to get some sewing supplies because I'd run out of thread, and I've been spending several hours a day working on sewing projects. This has become a huge passion of mine. And so I went to this store, and I saw that it wasn't open yet. So I saw an older gentleman, also someone on the street, sitting in front. And I figured he wouldn't know what time it was, but I asked him anyway. And he told me. And because it happened that he knew that it was approximately the time when the store was going to open. So I thought, okay, I'll just wait here for a few minutes with him. And we ended up having a very emotional conversation. I'm not going to share personal details from his life, even though I'm sure none of you would know who he was. But I listened to him for a while. He ended up getting slightly inappropriate towards me, which was uncomfortable. But I played it off as best I could, tried to show him compassion because he was obviously a drinker, and I have experience with that situation, to say the least, even though I don't drink anymore. And I specifically have a lot of empathy for older drunks on the street. So when it felt appropriate, I excused myself to go into the store, and I was extremely anxious because I had my bags with me, and usually my husband will wait outside with all our stuff while I go in, or vice versa. But this time we separated, and I had some of my bags. So I walked in very prepared for abuse from a store person. And I immediately announced to the clerk working there that, I asked them if they wanted me to leave my bags up front, and showed willingness to do that because I am used to people immediately demanding that I put my bags up front as if I was going to use them to shoplift, and as if I, wasn't going to be willing. But it turned out that person was really sweet. And I think like-minded. They're very queer-looking and a bit counterculture-looking individual. We made some small talk about having similar hair, and I bought the sewing kit with some money that I made from recycling, from collecting cans and bottles and turning them in at a recycling center for a small amount of money, and also from being blessed by some strangers recently. I then started walking to the park, and that's when I found the tree with the art. And while I had been talking to this gentleman in front of the store, is how I remember that happened first, he had told me about a child that he had seen in a neighboring town who, from what he described, is being sexually exploited. And it really hit close to home for me, obviously, as a survivor of child sex trafficking.
Yep.
And someone who was homeless from extremely young. And sorry, I just saw the most absolutely beautiful lizard, like this bright blue lizard. I've never seen anything like it before in my life.
Hey, go take that as a pause, and we'll go look at some other stuff about this base. But it's just insane that the soldiers are also victims, just like the children are that are in that community. The children and the soldiers are all victims. It's like that whole base is like there's something evil there. Let's see, this starts here, and how it's set up. No, it's not interfering with anything. I think most of the noise is done. A year after Foot Hood community experienced a second active shooter rampage, it remains difficult. Actually, let me magnify this, make it easier. Okay, now it's easier to read. A year after the Foot Hood community experienced a second active shooter rampage, it remains difficult to put into words and comprehend why such acts of violence occur in a tight-knit military communities, as soldiers, families, and Texas lawmakers gather to honor and pay respect to the 3 service members killed and 12 wounded in last year's April 2nd mass shooting by SPC specialist, I guess. Specialist. Oh, yeah, Ivan Lopez. I think it was from the other article, who took his own life after being confronted by military police. There's still no indication that this violent act could have been prevented by identifying early warning signs. Well, it usually is early warning signs. That's the thing. They just don't want to acknowledge it. Yeah, we're gonna be hearing a lot of names again that we've already heard. So maybe put another perspective on it. The community is still emotionally raw from the Nidell Hasan shooting that occurred in November 2009. The second rampage came nearly 9 months after Hasten's conviction of death sentence. It says these two horrific mass shootings are the most publicized incidents of violent crime at a stateside military post. Yet there's vast argument among service members and media alike regarding violent behavior in the service, and if the media's speculation as to why it occurs is an overplayed narrative. For years, news organizations have capitalized on market research indicating their audience's hunger for crime and violence reporting and popular trope, if it bleeds, it leads, is intended to feed the masses, but the post-traumatic stress-induced, war-torn, and mentally mad veteran narrative is nearly the first assumption digested as fact. Since roses left for shooting victims are seen at the feet of Lieutenant General Mark Miley, U.S. Senator, I'm guessing U.S. Senator John Kernan, and other military, Thursday, April 3rd, 2014, in Fort Hood, Texas. Photos by Eric Gay. All things. Okay, I guess I don't need to read the text underneath the photo. Same font as the one I'm already reading, but it just describes. Despite Fort Hood's quality training areas, comprehensive base resources, legendary Army units, and genuine Texas hospitality, it's often pegged by soldiers Army-wide as a less than desirable duty station due to the perception of ongoing crime and the idea that it's a black hole where careers get stuck. Everyone could tell a story of something bad that happened at Hood. David Green told Task and Purpose, a former Fort Hood senior non-commissioned officer who spent 11 years at the installation. My dad actually was in Texas. I should find out where he was. Wonder if he's got any stories about this place. It says Green explained that even people who were never been there found reason to bash the base. Even ones who didn't bash it would usually admit they had personal issues with the place, such as one bad supervisor, a divorce, a landlord issue. Just today, on my birthday, which I'm guessing was 2014, April 1st, Fort Hood received a call notifying the installation that a soldier allegedly issued a verbal threat. A suspect was taken into custody, but rumors spread rapidly across the internet about an active shooter on base. Fort Hood is now the largest active duty armed post, comprised of nearly 400,000 soldiers, civilian employees, families, and retirees in the Killeen, Temple, Fort area, metro area. Even though it looks like it's just rural, but I guess I consider it a metro. The base saw 26 violent crimes each year in 2012 to 2013, including aggressive assault, child pornography, kidnapping, homicide, rape. Well, that's a girl. That's what that girl was talking about: child pornography and rape, attempted rapes and robbery, according to the Fort Hood Herald staff reporter Rose Thayer. In 2015, the community. Oh, there's a link, and it goes to the KDHnews.com Fort Hood. It also talks about the crimes, I guess. In 2015, the community has already experienced soldiers dying from apparent gunshot wounds, which still remain under investigation, and a soldier accused of a triple murder suicide. And last month, Sergeant First Class Gregory McQueen, the one-time coordinator of a sexual assault response team in Fort Hood, was found guilty of running a prostitution ring, which that girl may know something of which I guess we'll have to watch more of her videos in the future. It says, yet even though there was a rise in violent crime in Fort Hood in 2014, Thayer wrote, the base stayed about 86% below the average of the surrounding community since 2012. It says, I think because so many outlets covered the mass shooting here, they continue to receive new alerts from Fort Hood, and therefore are more likely to cover those crime stories they see released, said Thayer in an interview with Task and Purpose, which is the one I'm reading this off of. She explained that a good example of the media's knee-jerk reaction to cover these stories of violence is the June 2014 shooting of an off-post housing area patrolled by Fort Hood police. Just googling shows you how many outlets reported the shots have been reported, and once they realized there was no murder, many of them disappeared. She said, and the Herald was the only outlet to cover the Article 32 hearing for the soldier charged with the shooting. Therefore, rather than being military based, plagued with high rates of violence, Fort Hood may be more susceptible to national attention compared to non-military communities when an isolated violent crime does take place. I don't know. You heard how many, so I don't know. Maybe there's got to be a way to find out if other bases are just as bad as this one. But there is also an incident that woman's rosary bead exploding when she entered the base. So there's obviously something. There is more going on. We already watched the videos about that person that was sex trafficked. So let's see how much more is there on this. Oh, it's not that much more. I think we can just finish it. And find where I was at now. I think I'm right here where it says it's April. We did that part. Ooh, she actually did lose my spot. Oh, there it is. After last year's Fort Hood shooting, Marine Corps veteran Thomas Gibbons Niff wrote an opinion piece on the Daily Beast, pointing to the divide between tragic isolated shootings and the media's PTSD-fueled narrative. Okay, yep. Yeah, I remember it too. Alex Jones covered it back then. Okay, I think he's trying, but it says even in the absence of any evidence that the shooter Ivan Lopez suffered from PTSD, news networks let it dribble out from the beginnings and ends of their sentences. The Huffington Post awarded a Pulitzer Prize for its work on veterans in 2012, used PTSD-related violence to build an horribly inaccurate map that portrayed veterans as an inherently violent population when it isn't. That graphic was later retracted. This piece also pointed to McClatchy's PTSD hot zone locator map, likening veterans to criminals. Let's go. I'll look that up. Actually, I'll put that load in the back, and it's not found. Of course, it's gone. The media's quickness to seek answers to a violent, tragic event is apparent in the still developing story and devastating German wings flight. Okay, what the hell? The still developing story of the devastating German wings flight 9525 crash in the French Alps. I think there was an episode on Mayday about that. I think it was pilot error. The German co-pilot. Oh, it is. I think it is. It says the German co-pilot who deliberately crashed an Airbus A320 into a mountainside was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, even informing the airline's parent company of his condition years prior. However, painting a conclusive picture by applying the actions of a sociopath and mass murderer to someone suffering from depression perpetrates the stigma associated with common mental health issues. Okay. Seriously, that's pretty disrespectful to the men of service in this country. But depression does not equal murderous intent to others. However, the media pushes the PTSD narrative as a standard motive behind any act of violence by a veteran. There is some truth to a decrease in morale across the military. I've experienced many situations like this over the course of my career. said an Air Force Tactical Air Control Party, or TACP, or TACP, I guess. I'm not sure if they pronounce it or what, but is a senior non-commissioned officer who is deployed with soldiers from multiple Army bases and asked to remain anonymous for this narrative. The toxic relationship boils down to lack of integrity, lack of enforcing standards, and a selfish approach to leading, typically because there's a political agenda motivating them, he said. Perhaps the most surprising indication of the decline of morality that has occurred throughout our Army reflects in the extremely disturbing trend of moral and ethical failures of senior leaders. Like investigating these freaking deaths. So Trump, you need to step up to your plate. And I guess this is wrote Major Joshua Glonek in 20. I wonder how much of my wall is missing. Okay. In a 2013 article for the Military Review. Okay, although the vast majority of senior officers hold themselves to high standards, the recent rash of inappropriate conduct has fostered a perception that our senior officer corps suffers from a sense of entitlement. Spaghetti-o. Entitlement has gotten into the military. That's definitely not good. A recent Army Times article echoes this sentiment, reporting that the Army has relieved 129 Army brigade and battalion officers since 2003, and 7 general officers have been relieved of their positions since 2008 for misconduct ranging from extramarital affairs to failing to properly address sexual assault claim in the command to misuse of government funds. But while a decrease in moral may ripple through the ranks, does it lead to crime or violence? Hell yeah, it does. Army researchers have long raised that question as well. It's pretty apparent since 2014, incidences at this base have gone up. And they've stated that, they said that this incidents at this base have gone up. So that's pretty clear what's going on. Yep, you're right. I see it. This is in 2010. The Army hired anthropologist David Matsuda to advise U.S. commanders in Iraq why nearly 30 soldiers had attempted suicide during the drawdown efforts. A more complicated story emerged on top of initial Army investigations. In addition to serious problems in the soldiers' personal lives, the victims also had a leader who made their life hell. Matsuda's report concluded that toxic leadership had played a role in 8 soldier suicides. Damn, seems like suicide's killing our soldiers worse than the enemy is. Toxic command climates have also directly contributed to the military's high number of sexual assaults and sexual violence among services. Administering anonymous command climate surveys is one way the military is seeking. I guess the people surveying are anonymous in this. I guess I think that's what they're trying to say. Way the military is seeking to weed out toxic leadership, but many feel there's still a long way to go. When you display behaviors of taking bribes and scamming the military out of millions of dollars, or sexually harassing and assaulting those who are charged with protecting, or something as simple as falsifying the pencil whipping training documents, when you have to expect those in lower positions will pick and choose which rules they want to follow, said the Air Force TACP senior NCO. I guess that means they're talking about the non-commissioned officer from earlier. I think that's what all that means. And it's just picking and choosing which rules to follow, compounded with the potential serious mental health illnesses that go undetected and untreated and poorly poorly pointed moral compass has had military leaders continually searching for answers and solutions to these problems. And it looks like that's the end of the article. So it looks like there's just a systemic problem in the whole military, not just this base. We will try to actually finish this video.
It's going to take me a second to collect myself. I get very excited about things like that. But anyways, on a serious note, he told me about this child that he had seen who looked exploited. And I decided that I would make my contribution to this tree project about that. I happened to have something perfect for it in my sewing kit. I had to buy new sewing supplies, but I still had some of my old ones. So I sat down and I decided to make a real practice of it, as I've been dedicating myself to being more mindful about these kinds of things and really kind of ritualizing them more in a positive fashion. So I sat down and smoked some weed, and I did some drumming on this drum that some traveler girls gave me the other night. I had a really beautiful experience where I met some girls who were traveling, and they had this instrument that they wanted to give me because I guess they had seen me singing out on the street a few nights before and were very moved by it. And so now I've been walking around with this drum, and I've been playing on it every day. So I sat and I played on this drum and tried to connect spiritually to this child. And then I realized I had to use the bathroom again, and it was going to be a little ways to the park. So I finished what I was doing, put my piece on the tree, and I also made another art piece for it of my own accord. I have been doing some art involving drawing on rocks. So I did a project involving drawing on park. I saw that the bathrooms were still being cleaned, and I was very afraid to ask the people at the park who were cleaning it when it would be open, because oftentimes such people are abusive to me for being homeless.
I can see the other
no matter how polite I am. But this time, even though the people there seemed to have a strong reaction to me emotionally, they were very nice. One of them agreed to watch my stuff, while the other one had offered to open up the space for me to go in and quickly use the bathroom. She even cleaned one of the toilets for me first, and also let me fill up my water bottle. And it was very sweet, and it made me feel a lot better about the abuse that I've been experiencing on the street. And after making the best conversation I could, I went around the corner and I sang for a while, and I used this big poster board that I made. I wrote a bunch of song names on it, you know, for asking and for personal reference and practicing. So I laid it out. I sat under this tree and I sang to myself, and I was hoping that it would bring some positivity to the people at the park who had been nice to me because they were still around the corner. And even though we didn't say anything about it, I felt this sense like my singing moved them, and hyper empathetic, I can often feel these things from people. So that was healing. And I also did some sewing. I repaired a patch for a goth band that I love that was falling off of my leather jacket. That made me feel better. And then some parts started to get into conflict about it because we were really hungry and we didn't have any more food with us. And we started making mistakes with the sewing. And just as we were getting super frustrated and decided to put it away, our husband showed up with the absolute perfect timing. And we then went and headed out to a place to get free lunch at a church. Unfortunately, the people there are for the most part not kind.
And now I get a picture of the hole for you guys.
And they are often openly hostile to the people who get food there. And today, for whatever reason, I don't really know their schedule fully yet. I thought there would be food. So did a lot of other people who seem to go there regularly. But for whatever reason, they said there was no food, and they acted like this was to be expected. And the lady who told us this was obviously not caring. And I got very upset because not only was I very hungry, didn't appreciate being turned away with the callousness she displayed, but I also witnessed something very terrible. A man walked up to her asking her about food, and he started to ask her for help.
Okay, I gotta show you guys the hole. It's freaking huge. I'm gonna stop sharing and put myself back on. I'm gonna show you this hole. It is massive. They completely cut up my room. So oh, there it is. You guys can see it now. Yeah, that's the whole reveal. Insane, isn't it? Ugh. They're responsible for that. They are responsible. I'm holding them responsible for this. What they're doing to the... Oh, there's the pictures of them working. So definitely a good 1.5 feet by 2 feet. It's pretty big. So that's what all the noise you guys have been hearing. So I'm not sure how much longer they've got, but they're doing something now. They're doing something in the bathroom sink side. There's no hole though. Yeah, there's a lot of water still in there. I guess I gotta drain 9. No, we got 6 floors above, 5 or 6 floors above. I gotta drain the water out of. Yeah, that lady's really going through a lot of hell, though. I really feel sorry for her. I wish I was able to help her, but her latest video was literally 3 years ago, and it really sucks. I'm not even sure she'll get it if I left a comment. Yeah, the most recent comment was 2 years ago. It says, "I found out about her story today. It's heartbreaking, and search for your channel. I read Springmeyer and Wheeler." Oh yeah, Springmeyer. I think Springmeyer pops up on gang stalking on the gang stalking Reddit as well. In Wheeler's book, yeah, I think Springmeyer and Wheeler they both co-authored that book. And I have covered parts. I've covered parts of it before. I've mentioned it, and other people have mentioned it in my comments. It's all tied. It's all connected. I've been saying it's all connected. This whole thing is connected. And some Bill Cooper, before I knew these things existed, "I've been immensely strong. I believe you and wish you all the best." I'm going to tell her to please reach. I'm going to ask her to. Okay. If you get this, please reach out to me on my channel. I'm covering victims of I'll just say not victims of sexual abuse, victims of. Let's have to say victims of corruption, because it's just everything by our deep state. You have allies in the gang stalking community, the gang stalked in the targeted individual community. So she'll at least have something to look up. Okay, there we go. Let me send it. Okay, the comment is, if you get this, please reach out to me on my channel. I'm covering victims of corruption by our deep state. It's sad you're homeless. You have allies in the targeted individual community. You just have to reach out to them. Oh yeah, it's done. And never mind, just lost the whole comment. Whatever. I'm not gonna write that again. It's too much. But I think we'll look at this one, this Vice article. It seems pretty insane. Inside a massive human smuggling ring. This might be San Diego for all I know. I'm gonna have to magnify this to make it readable to me. Sucks it doesn't only. I wish it magnified the text more than it did the images. Camp Pendleton Marines. That's where this is located. Yeah, it's in California. Go figures. So if we want to get into this one, we can. Should be working. Why is my stream blanked out? Oh, there it goes. Now it's playing on that side. Yeah, pretty much. That's what it is. That's what a lot of this stuff is the MK Ultra. Just what it's progressed into now. It just seems to get worse. It seems to get more and more twisted and evil. It's crazy. In the last news article I read, that this lady's rosary bead literally exploded when she walked onto the base. She walked on the Fort Hood base. She walked on, her rosary exploded. And that's definitely a sign of demonic activity. I was not expecting to hear anything spiritual in these articles. But it's pretty clear when I went on the Orion lines and looked up elite satanic pedophile ring, that yeah, there's gonna be some crazy stuff in here. And look at this one. Let me put the screen back on. Let me reshare this. And we're gonna play some serious truth this time. I already did do that, so entire screen allow. So let's wait for it to catch up. He was like, I'm not gonna wait, I'll just play it. It says US was need to sacrifice to Satan over COVID-19. Even that's like
56 servicemen killed themselves. So military suicide is an actual crisis that the Pentagon might want to address. Lloyd Austin might want to look into that. But no, that would get them to identify the sincere Christians in the ranks, the free thinkers, the men with high testosterone levels, and anyone else who does not love Joe Biden, and make them leave immediately. It's a takeover of the U.S. military. Here's how they're doing it. This shows just obtained a PowerPoint that the Army is using to justify mandatory vaccines to the troops. This is an actual slide from it on your screen. You will notice there the sympathetic portrayal of Satanism.